It's a new embarrassment for the Democratic National Committee. Listen to this. They reportedly lost almost $29,000 to an email scammer who was pretending to be the committee's chairman, Ken Martin.
Do you listen to me?
Hey, I'm going to take $100. I'm taking $100 away from you. I told you not to use that language around me. Okay?
Do not read in! Do not read in! Do not read in the card!
What?
Do not read in the card!
Yes, I'm redeeming the card. I'm redeeming the cards. Okay?
Folks, you can't make this up. So, as if the DNC's financial situation could not get any worse, it's apparently revealed, according to their financial reporting today, that they accidentally sent tens of thousands of dollars to a scammer who was posing as DNC chair Ken Martin, but was not. That's right. The DNC fell for a scam and sent their own money there, and then they wonder why they don't have any money, which I think is hilarious on many levels because it vindicates a lot of what we say about Democrats not having strong detection systems against fraud, right? You wonder, how was it in Minnesota that, they gave all this money out to obvious scammers? And then apparently, I don't know, someone called the DNC saying, my friend, I need $29,000. I am Ken Martin. I'm DNC chair, I swear. And then they just said, okay, here, we're going to go pay you. They fell for an email scam, ladies and gentlemen, a freaking phishing scam. This is not some random grandma who doesn't know how the internet works. This is the Democratic National Committee. Their nationwide organization. They actually fell for a phishing scam, okay? They fell for the Nigerian prince, effectively. Utterly hilarious. You can't make that up, and it's getting so bad that even a lot of other DNC and former DNC figures are now starting to question whether Ken Martin's leadership is working out for them all that well. I think the answer is obviously no. I mean, you look at the debt situation, and then already you're out of money. Already you're putting up the DNC building as collateral, literally, so you can take out emergency lines of credit for election year, and then you fall for some Nigerian or Indian scammer who just stole a bunch of money from you. That's actually hilarious. Let's talk about it, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. That's the best way to support our work, and it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And while we're on this topic, folks, just because the DNC is incompetent and is falling for spam emails doesn't mean you have to, which is why we have a word from today's sponsor over at Incogni. That was smooth. Hey, quick question. Do you know how easy it is for strangers to find your home address, phone number, or family info online right now? The answer, even if you think you never share that information, is extremely easy. Data brokers and people search sites are selling your personal information to marketers, spam, and much worse. That means more spam calls, higher identity theft risk, and zero privacy. So if you ever wonder why you're getting those random calls and emails from things you never signed up for, that's probably why. I've certainly been through that, and I'm sure many of you have as well. Incogni, our sponsor today, fixes that. Incogni automatically requests removal of your data from 420 plus data brokers and people search sites and keeps monitoring it in case it pops back up. Multiple emails, addresses, phone numbers, all handled. Recurring scans, progress reports, and even unlimited custom removals on the unlimited plan. Over 245 million removal requests have been sent already, independently verified by Deloitte. I trust Incogni with my online privacy. Many other creators do, and I encourage you to do the same. So why not check it out? Right now, with my audience code DAO, you'll get 60% off the annual plan. That's serious protection for less than the cost of a couple coffees a month, a 30-day money-back guarantee, cancel anytime. Click the link below, use code DAO at incogni.com/DAO and take back your privacy today. Your data, your rules, incogni.com/DAO. You know, sometimes the ad placement just fits so perfectly, doesn't it? Don't end up like the DNC. Don't be like Ken Martin. Try Incogni today. Maybe if they had Incogni in the DNC, this would have never happened. But okay, all of that aside, here's the story. So the Democratic National Committee was scammed out of nearly $29,000 by an email from someone pretending to be Chairman Ken Martin last year according to reporting from Notice. So, couple questions I already have to ask there. So, this is kind of your typical phishing email, likely, where they were asking for money and, yeah, impersonating, hey, I'm this guy. They're pretty commonplace in corporate settings and all of those things. But how does that happen still? Where's the verification, right? Oh, I'm Ken Martin. I need money, or you owe me. You need to pay me or something, right? Isn't that something that should be cross-referenced with the actual payroll? You would think maybe to ask Ken Martin, hey, was this you? Because that's likely an irregular way to send an email. By the way, what did the email address say? Did it say Ken Martin at DNC.org, or was it like Gupta at Gmail and they just didn't check? Well, again, as I said, the most hilarious part about this entire story is it vindicates what Republicans say, because this is exactly the same way that Democrats send out welfare payments, right? Oh, hey, Gupta at gmail.com. We believe you might be a poor person. Okay, here's like millions of dollars of Medicaid benefits and fake charity nonprofit grants and all of those things. And then they run away with it. And literally, like, that's just so fitting, right? The Democrat Party's entire platform is effectively intentionally allowing themselves to get scammed by a bunch of third worlders. And that's, of course, how they build their political machines in major cities, places like Minneapolis, New York, Los Angeles, but not exclusively that. But in the end, right? Live by the sword, you know what happens next. Suddenly, that same modus operandi ends up striking them at a time when they cannot afford to lose the money. How utterly ridiculous. But here's what it says. So, Schedule B, supporting line 29 of the detailed summary page, discloses a disbursement for, quote, misdisbursement, seeking return of funds totaling about $28,860. A senior DNC campaign finance person, Jack Baltson, wrote in 2025 to Treasurer Virginia McGregor. They're like, oh, shoot, they just walked off and stole our money. But, hey, I'm sure it's just a teen takeover of the money, right? They were borrowing it. They just needed to buy bread with it. Let's remember, stealing stuff is not a crime, according to Democrats. So I don't really see the issue. Why should they have to return it? That's their reparations. This person probably came from the so-called global South, as you call it, who stole your money. So, but the transaction appears to be related to an apparent unauthorized disbursement of committee funds. Well, how can you have that be unauthorized, right? Shouldn't someone be there who's reviewing every payment sent? Probably not, because this is the DNC we're talking about, right? So this is the type of financial activity these people get up to. That's just so hilarious. Although the commission may take further legal action regarding this apparent improper use of committee funds, any further clarifying information you can give will be taken into consideration. The fraudulent request was made in February of 2025. So keep in mind too, by the way, February of 25, if you remember the news cycle back then, and what we were talking about even on this channel, if you were here, this is the same exact time where the Act Blue scandal was becoming a big issue. People were resigning all of this because basically it was revealed that the Democrat Party was using basically credit card fraud oftentimes, because the Act Blue, the Democrat donation site, intentionally did not require a CVV number, so that way it made it easier for credit card scammers to take people's cards and go donate to the Democrat Party. And so basically, right, it was revealed there's a mass fraud situation. It's almost the precursor to everything else. There's a mass fraud situation going on with the DNC. They're raising money oftentimes on stolen credit cards. And so you would think, amidst all of that scrutiny, and maybe the revelation that all of your political support and your cash in a lot of ways is fake, but still, this should be the time when you're extra careful about the books, right? Don't get into trouble. Don't do anything stupid. And no, instead, ladies and gentlemen, February 2025, while they're under scrutiny, they're still sending out money that they obviously should not have done. Apparently, just $7,000 of the $28,860 has been recovered. Good luck trying to get the rest. But what the spokesperson said in response is the DNC takes seriously our duty to protect the funds provided to us by millions of patriotic Americans chipping in to fund our mission. This was a one-off mistake that was promptly caught and addressed, and no similar issues have occurred since. That's really funny. Where have I heard that one before? Where have I heard Democrats claim that fraud that they were involved in was just a one-off mistake? It's not a systemic issue, right? We take these things very seriously. We want to be responsible stewards of people's dollars, whether that's campaign donations or tax dollars. And then you kind of can tell clearly that's not actually the case. That's not actually what they're doing or what's happening, you know. But just as I said, the most Democrat coded story of all time. Of course, this is coming at the same exact point when the DNC cannot afford to be losing any money because the cash difference, interestingly, ever since Act Blue effectively got taken down and USAID was defunded, the DNC still to this day remains flat broke. Take a listen.
National Committee. Look at this. Cash they have, June 2026. The RNC, $129 million. That's pretty gosh darn good, right? But get this, the Democrats are a rarity. The DNC is red on your screen. Why are they red? Because they're literally in the red, way down there. They're actually in negative territory. That's cash on hand subtracted by the party debt. The party debt actually is greater than the cash on hand. The Democratic National Committee, it's broke. It's basically broke. And why is this? What is going on here? And it is because Democratic enthusiasm.
So that's something to keep in mind, is that if the DNC were otherwise in a normal, healthy state, this might be a one-off story that we make fun of them for, but that's about the end of it. But when you're, for example, Ken Martin, you're the chair of the DNC, you're already facing major scrutiny and a basically civil war currently brewing that we'll tell you about in a second. It doesn't exactly help to find out that, oh, the DNC effectively under your leadership is also associated with very negative, stupid headlines like this right here. But anyways, again, coming at the same time when this news comes out, and probably maybe let's argue was potentially given to the media by certain people in the DNC who want Ken Martin to be out. Here's what the New York Times just wrote about. Inside the phone-throwing drama at the troubled, broke Democrat Party, it describes that Democrats should be well-positioned to make gains in this year's midterms, but inside party headquarters, every week brings paranoia, worries about money. Well, gee, they're putting up the freaking building as collateral. That shouldn't be surprising. And on occasion, emotional eruptions. So it looks like these people are not exactly all that stable at the moment. The Democrat Party is so short on cash that leaders at its headquarters have undertaken a new gambit to mask the severity of the problems, asking vendors not to send invoices or bills until after the midterm elections. That's insane. That's it. They can't even throw events, basically, is what they're saying. Because, okay, please don't charge us till after because we don't want to show how much debt we're in. Are you freaking kidding me with that? Right? Like, this is basically, so already they effectively took a loan out against their house, right? Using the house as collateral, aka their headquarters. Now, they're basically just running up credit card debt. It is really what this is sort of the equivalent of, right? And basically saying we're going to try to pay it after the midterms. Insane. The bookkeeping maneuver, which was described by three people briefed on it, is the latest sign of financial duress for the DNC and its embattled leader as money troubles threaten to undercut Democrat momentum with 100 days into the midterms. So it goes on to basically point out, you know, Democrats think they should be having a good time, but rather, the fundraising situation especially is creating rising anxiety for top Democrats. Well, money doesn't win elections. That's obviously not a reason to get complacent just because we outspent them, because plenty of times where they outspent us and, you know, we still won. But still, obviously, it's something you need, right? You need some of it. So at the center is Ken Martin, the 53-year-old party chairman, who, by the way, was initially picked because, oh, he's sort of a little bit of an outsider. I think he's from Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. So just not someone necessarily directly from the Obama kind of Biden dynasty. So they were hopeful about that. But looks like he is not really doing a great job here, clearly. Although, you know, in fairness to him, how could you do a good job managing the DNC, right? You could revive JFK and put him there, and he still probably wouldn't be able to hold these lunatics together or get money, right? But anyways, who found himself increasingly isolated, gripped by the fear that he will lose his job and relying on a vanishingly small circle of people he trusts, according to interviews with more than 24 Democrats, including former and current DNC officials and members. So basically what they're describing is that Ken Martin right now is like the Führer in 1945, right? He's crouched in the bunker. He's all paranoid about betrayal. Fegelein, Fegelein. That's what's going on in here, right? Having screaming meltdowns. Apparently, he threw a phone at someone. I mean, like I said, literally, he's Hitler in the bunker. You ever seen Downfall? You ever seen the movie? This is him right here. Mr. Martin's fraying nerves are showing. In a pike of frustration in early July, he threw his phone at the desk of a junior aide while upbraiding the person. The phone tossing incident resulted in a formal complaint to the DNC's Human Resources Department. Well, this is a guy who's clearly just completely losing his freaking mind, right? The fallout from the phone throwing episode was described by half a dozen people familiar with the incident who spoke on anonymity because they're not authorized to discuss internal party matters. None of them had witnessed the encounter, and there was some dispute over how aggressively the phone was tossed. But, regardless, it doesn't necessarily make a massive difference because, the Democrats of the party have believed the victim all the time. And clearly, I think the reason this story probably came out to begin with is there are people who want Ken Martin out as the party leader. So you're about 100 days, give or take, from the midterm election. You're talking in the middle of general election season, which is basically right around the corner, arguably already started. And you're talking about replacing potentially your party chair, right? Because that's a good thing to do last minute, This is the state of the DNC right now. They're like, oh, we're broke. Probably everyone's, just completely spiraling, going crazy. And Ken Martin is, like the Führer and stuff. Yeah, what a scene, what a situation. And by the way, externally, former DNC characters like the famously ousted David Hogg are 100% using the opportunity to take pot shots. And clearly, folks, we're witnessing such a united political front here, aren't we?
One of the main things that Chair Ken Martin ran on releasing was an autopsy report that would bring real accountability to the DNC, and that was totally fumbled, where there was no mention of Gaza, there was no mention of inflation, there was no mention of the president's age, or any actual issues that decided the election, and they couldn't even be bothered to include a conclusion in that. Then you add on top of that it's now been 18 months, and they had to put the building up as collateral, and they're $2 million in debt. And then you juxtapose that with the progressive movement and what's going on out there. It's incredibly sad to see the DNC and the committee at this point, and it could not be more clear that he's unfit to lead. We need somebody who can actually raise money and also not throw his phone at staff.
Yeah, because I'm sure if David Hogg were instead made in charge of the DNC as he was hoping before, I'm trying to remember, was it the far left who cooed him out, right? Or was it the establishment? I don't exactly remember, but, it's all this stupid infighting and the party politics going on. But, needless to say, I'm sure that if you were in charge, the DNC would be great. They totally also wouldn't be broke or something like that, right? Kids, you're all just awful. But sit back and grab your popcorn and just enjoy the show, I guess, because they're a mess. These people are a mess. And as you can tell behind the scenes, clearly they appear to be not really as stable or confident about this midterm election as they project on the outside, which is not a reason for us to get complacent, but certainly some good news for optimism, right? Anyways, that said, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video. And until next time, God bless and peace.